Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to Shop Talk. I argue that it's time for Microsoft to have another XP SP2 moment. No more AI, no more features, just fixes. When I was working on Windows XP, the blaster worm hit. That was a big enough deal that we set aside all feature work. For the next several months, all we did was improve security. We didn't add security features, we fixed bugs, lots of bugs, until there weren't security bugs to fix anymore. And then we fixed the ones we didn't know about yet. Put more simply, we stopped trying to add value to the product through features that PMs thought users would like, and instead we focused on things that have been important for a long time but overlooked, like performance and configurability today. And so, rather than trying to improve and add value to the system through new AI features now, I argue it's time for Microsoft to stabilize, improve, and make the system more performant and more usable for power users like me and probably like you. I'll be joined now by my co-host, Glen. How you doing, Glen?
I'm doing well, Dave. Doing really well. Interesting. You've been pretty active on what do the kids call it? The social media, whatever, social media stuff. So we've pulled a few questions from that are kind of been pretty topical. So the first one here, is it worth maxing out a rig with 1 terabyte of RAM in 2025?
Really depends what you're doing with it. I do have a machine with 1 terabyte of RAM, and it's sponsored by 45 Drive Storinator machine. So they provided a Storinator, and then we upgraded it about 2 years later with new CPU and memory. And the reason we went with 1 terabyte was really twofold. One was that we do the Primes benchmark, which measures what the fastest computer language is by bench racing I guess it's around 100 different computer languages by compiling, building, testing, and benchmarking them every night. Some of those sieves need to be really large, and they're all running in competition with each other for memory at times. So it was nicer in that we could, instead of rationing CPU and memory out to each process one step at a time, we could just run them all and let them have the memory. And it's also running a TrueNAS instance in there, so that uses up about 256 gigabytes of that memory for caching and so on. So it's a pretty memory intensive system, and so it's a rare case. We can also run really large language models on it, like the 405 billion parameter model on it. They don't run especially fast because they run in CPU, but it's nice to have the memory so you can run extremely large models.
So maybe a secondary question to that, under what circumstances would you consider putting a terabyte of RAM on a machine these days?
Only if I had a way to make money doing it, I guess, because it's pretty expensive. I think it'd be about $7,000 at current RAM prices right now. So,
and I think I just saw something that said in some stores are kind of selling RAMs almost become a commodity again.
Well, it's the opposite of a commodity right now. So at least for the upper end RAM.
I thought it was more like that the price was just, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the price is just so high. It's changing all the time now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that what a commodity? I don't know.
Commodity is something that everybody makes and is really cheap and usually easy to get.
Okay.
This is now becoming rare and hard to get. So
precious metal, my precious. Another one. Should you learn assembly to debug AI generated code in the long term?
I don't think so. If you are generally going to be looking at AI generated code, you're going to want to be really fluent in the language that it's generating the code in. But unless you're having it write systems level code for you, there's not much probable need that you're going to need assembly. Now, I've had AI write code for the BSD kernel on my PDP-11, and then I actually have to go look at the assembly and see what's going on in order to debug it, because that's really the only way other than adding printfs. So depends on what you're doing, but my case is not a common case, so I would say no, probably not assembly language for AI generated code.
Okay, so talking about that, then there's another question here. How did you build your PDP-11 or the BBS on your PDP-11 in pure KNR C code?
I did have some AI assist. I've been playing with the GPT Codex 5.1, and I wrote kind of the skeletal framework, and then I would say things like, where I have the menu to create a group, add all the other verbs, add a delete group, add a edit group, add the various things, and give it that kind of instruction once I had laid out the framework. And it's been pretty good. It has not managed to step too far out of the KNR syntax. You have to be careful about declaring variables only at the opening of a scope block and that kind of thing. I think once or twice it's maybe messed that up, but for what's probably 10,000 lines of code, it's done pretty well.
Another question here. How did you port Windows Pinball to NT without losing the soul?
I kept the original game logic all intact and then wrote code around that to adapt that existing code to the NT system. So when the game thought it was calling the Win95 stuff to call and draw its bitmaps on the screen, it was actually hooked and then called my stuff. But the game itself that was running and keeping track of where the ball was and all the game states was unchanged as much as I could do from the original game. So that's how I largely kept it.
Okay.
Great design from the original game, and so I was just trying not to screw that up.
Yeah, don't mess with greatness, I guess.
Right.
Well, and the challenge on that one was more the porting it, not necessarily making it better or different or...
Yeah, I had no intention of changing the game in any way. I just wanted to make sure I could get it to run as well or better than it did on Win95.
Yeah, so it worked better, right?
Yeah, it did, especially if you had a multi-processor machine.
Because then you had super gravity calculations. Right?
Exactly.
Why does loving the grind make you a better engineer than raw talent?
Well, there's
and maybe, is that you, as in you, Dave, or is that more of a generic question, you think?
I'll take it as a generic.
Okay.
You know, there's the old saying that, how does it go? Work beats talent when talent won't work. So it doesn't matter how gifted you are. If you don't grind with that talent, you're never going to develop. You're never going to exceed the people that are, 80% as good as you, but are obsessive about it. So there's always room for the delicate, crazy genius that only a few people can approach. But in general, work plus talent is the best combination.
Yeah, I think it's important that just because you grind doesn't mean you can overcome no talent.
Yeah, I could grind a piano for a long time, and it wouldn't make much difference.
It would pretty much sound like you were grinding and really not playing the piano. Right. What's the deal with Lotus Magellan being a 1989 search beast that we forgot?
Yeah, I love that thing. So it was an old DOS-based program, and I think I was running DOS 4 at the time, probably. And it was a content indexer. It would go through your hard drive, and I think network shares too, if it had access to them. And it would content index all of your files and where they were and what they were named. So then you could just like Google your own machine. And this worked really well in the late 80s. And it amazes me now that if you type Windows Find and I type downloads to go to my downloads folder, it's going to suggest that I go to some download site with my Edge browser. And I really miss the days of being able to type in just a simple file name or a piece of the content or even a wildcard pattern. And look, here's the 50 files that match that pattern really quickly, really easily accessed and organized. So I hope they bring that function. I mean, the Finder on Mac is pretty close.
Yeah.
It doesn't do network paths. I've tried to get it to do network paths, and it just won't. But if it's up to date, it works pretty well. The Windows one I've never understood. I've never understood why it's not as good, because the content index engine seems just fine on Windows. It just seems like how they're exposing it is weird.
And have they tried to address that? I know there's tabs. Oh, you want to check documents or files or the web. So they've got some tabs set up to try and filter some of that search stuff, but it still doesn't seem excellent.
Right. And on the Mac, I've noticed too that if you go to, say I type find banana, and then it's going to come up with a set of, or I go to the Finder and I do banana, it will do the master search. But if I go to any subpath and say find from here down, it's glacial. So their indexing is weird in that it never comes back with results almost. So,
is running Linux on a VAX cooler than Arch Linux on a Dell?
Well, you can't run Linux on a VAX, but you can run NetBSD.
Right.
Which is what I run on my VAX. So,
and you're running 2.11?
It's 10 actually, and I think 10. Coming up on 11 really quick.
Oh, I'm thinking on the PDP, it's 2.11. Yeah, 2.11 on the older one. And you just got another 1140?
I got 1144 arrived today.
And what's that going to run?
It will run BSD Unix, so it's big enough. It's the last biggest PDP they made that's still made with all chip level stuff. There's no CPU chip. The CPU is a whole board or multiple boards of chips of TTL logic. And so it's the last of that generation, and it will, with 4 megabytes, if you max the machine out, run BSD pretty well. So not sure how fast it is compared to an 1170 yet. I assume it's a little slower, but we'll find out.
Probably 4 weeks ago, I think one of our usual chats, you were poking around with your AI generating images and your Mount Rushmore of computer folks, and it just couldn't get some of the faces right. So you must have been putting some of that out there. Someone's asked you, why is Margaret Hamilton on your programming Mount Rushmore?
Oh, because she wrote, or at least directed and oversaw, the code for the lunar lander. And it was all sort of new territory. It wasn't just that, hey, it's like I could probably write the code for the lunar lander, but not if nobody has ever done it before and there's no control system software and you're inventing the opcodes and working with the hardware team as you go and that kind of thing. So it was really early on. It was really deep level. And I think she was pretty directly hands involved. And the code landed people on the moon, or landed men on the moon. So
Not too
hard
bad.
to beat that.
And last week when we were recording our episode, I sort of alluded, Dave will be out of town this weekend, but we'll probably still get a show in, so we're recording it. And related to that, on social media, they've asked here, what's the real story? I don't know what's the real story behind that one-of-a-kind 1969 Pontiac 2+2 convertible, Dave?
So the short version of the story is my dad bought a brand new 1969 Pontiac coupe when I was a baby. And so it became the family car for the next 16 years until I became old enough. Then they gave me the keys and I drove it and I still have it and I've restored it. And so we've had this car 50 years, same license plate number, same car, same everything. And along the way, the car is, of course, very sentimental to me, but the car itself is nothing special. It was a 350 Power Glide car. So I always kind of lusted for and looked for the unicorn Pontiacs, the ones that had really the big optional 427 engine, which is another story why it's a 427 and not a 428. But in Canada, it's a 427. And eventually I found this car on a farm in Alberta that had every option, every performance option, the 4-speed M21 or M20 4-speed. It had the 12-bolt rear end, it had posi, F41 suspension, redline tires, rally wheels. And the only options it had were convertible top, power windows, and tinted glass. So other than that, the thing's totally barren of anything other than performance options. And it's a red color combination, buckets, console, everything you want in a car. And it was like an 8-year ordeal. Well, it first took me 10 years to buy the car from the guy because he was going to restore it one day. And then eventually he was unable to do it. So he was old and he agreed to sell it to me, and then it was like an 8-year restoration, and it just finished and debuted at the McCacken or Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals in Chicago this weekend. So we went out there, and the car did pretty well, got a silver in the concourse, and I'm doing a video on it now, so watch the main channel, Dave's Garage, and next couple weeks.
And you'll see more.
Yeah. Lots of photos.
Yeah, last time on Shop Talk, we were talking, you had done an episode on Dave's Garage about the Task Manager. And so I thought I'd sort of go through some of those questions, actually, and a number of folks had commented since we did that video, so I pulled a bunch of those out. So we'll get into some of these ones. Actually, and before I jump into that, actually, I'm going to start with some of the stuff from last week. Sheexec says I think you were talking about how to download the old Task Manager and get it to run on the current system. And so she says, oh, no. The file you want is taskmanager.exe _, not taskman.exe _! The one without the exclamation mark is the older Win3x task list program. Oh, sorry. It's taskmgr.ex _ and taskman.ex _.
Oh, okay. Well, I got a 50-50 shot of being right. So
there you go. Jesme 2006 just got the NT4 task manager you described, and I'm getting the procedure entry point could not be located in the dynamic link library, blah, 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 blah. I put the executable in the same directory as the new task manager using Windows 11 v25h2. Am I doing something wrong, or have Microsoft?
I would not put it in that same folder. Sorry to interrupt there, but I would not put it in the same folder as the original task manager. It's going to pick up DLLs from that local folder, perhaps, that it's not prepared for. So just run it from your desktop or somewhere like that. That's what I did, and that worked for me.
Right. So that answers an expert said, am I doing something wrong, or have Microsoft nerfed your version of Task Manager? No, Jesme, you've nerfed it by putting it right on top of the old one.
I think so.
Excellent. Well, that should help. Let us know if that does in the comments. DL Cypher 32. I've recently switched to Linux, and you'll be very happy to know that I have discovered the top command by asking, does Linux have an equivalent to the Task Manager?
Very true. So I based probably a lot of the early task manager work on having seen top on BSD Unix. And so I got used to that, and I got used to the PS command. And so those were the things that really prompted my interest in having that kind of functionality on NT. So I guess it's come full circle.
Yeah, and D-Steron says, thanks again, very interesting. Ever think about writing a task manager for Linux?
No, because there's HTOP and BTOP. There are some pretty good ones now, so I don't think I could bring much more to that space than's already there.
Okay. And following up on folks who responded after our last episode back to your original Dave's Garage one on the task manager turning 30, over and over and over says, how do the charts work? What algorithms are there for sampling are you using to culminate a charted value? So where are you getting that data?
So I get a history buffer every time I do a frame update. I have a linked list of here's the results of this. It's probably an array actually, but here is the set of results for the CPU data and every other graph that I track. And when it repaints, it figures out which section of the graph, and then it goes and looks at those data points and redraws just those lines. And so it depends which part of that window gets clipped, but it's pretty smart about painting and it tries to be pretty fast.
Great. Manan Raghunath. Thanks, man, for this tool. Just a small query, though. When some process is not responding, I try to open Task Manager by using keyboard shortcut, but instead of allowing me to kill that process, Task Manager decides to join it and doesn't respond. Is there a reason behind that?
That generally means something in the window manager is jammed up and no apps are going to run. So if you ever find that Task Manager won't run, but other things will run, that would be a really weird situation I'd like to know more about. But if the system's so borked that even Task Manager can't run correctly, then it's just borked. Not much you can do about it at that point except probably restart. You might have better luck with Control Shift Escape than trying to do Control Delete and all that, or trying to use the right-click Task Manager or any of those mechanisms. Try Control Shift Escape, see if that works better for you.
Okay, it might be a similar answer to this one. Ocabarin to Rue with a gun. Since I found you, I'd like to ask a question regarding uninstalling other programs. Some programs are constantly running, and even when I end tasks, some of them will come back faster than I can get to end them again. The result is me not being able to uninstall a specific file that I just want to get rid of, because if I can't because it's running, Windows doesn't allow it to be deleted. Is there a way to fix this issue or completely shut off all programs running on a file?
No, but the two things you could do is perhaps rename the executable while it's running. You won't be able to delete it because it'll be busy, but rename it from foo.exe to bar.exe or something like that. Try that, and then when it tries to restart, it probably won't find its old executable, and you'll be able to then delete it. So once you've killed it once, that should be enough.
So it's buzzing in Task Manager. You go onto the actual drive, rename the file that's active, and that's what will help disconnect it then.
Yeah.
Okay. And shift.
That'd be my first try.
Control Shift Escape too.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, that's the way you got to go in every time now, right? Visima, do you have any idea why the operating system still runs if you kill File Explorer, but the desktop just becomes black?
Because the File Explorer is not the operating system. It's a component of the operating system. It's the shell runs on top of the base operating system. And so the operating system runs happily without it. You just don't have a way to interact with your desktop and file system. So there's nothing left to put on the desktop, so you get a black desktop. Okay. Now you could have other windows open. You could have a shell or command window or other file browsers open, even that kind of, not Windows Explorers, but other brands of file browsers. Nothing to prevent that. So,
Tot K Hui. Wait a minute. The same code you wrote 30 years ago? Is it still present in the latest versions of Windows? Has anyone you've worked with ever heard of code refactoring?
Well, yeah, but have you seen the code? I don't know how much of the original code is still there. I suspect a lot of the original framework is probably still there, but for all I know, they have completely refactored it. I don't know much about the code post XP2. I've talked to the guys that work on it. They seem nice and clever, but I don't know much about the internals of the code at this point.
I was going to say, you got to kind of treat the original Task Manager kind of like Space Cadet Pinball, right? You can make it work on the newer systems, but you don't change it.
Yeah.
The Darkness 8533. How can one make Windows 10 or 11 run Task Manager like it used to on Windows 7 or XP?
That was kind of the whole video, wasn't it? Or what am I missing?
And maybe he didn't know how to install it or something. But it's that Task Manager or Taskman _EX. and
Unless he
don't
was
install it in
asking
the same
because of
directory.
the Task Manager video, but he didn't see the Dave's Attic feature that explained how to do it. So now that question is being answered on Dave's Attic, where he should be watching to get the answer to his question. If that sounds like you, make sure you're subscribed to Dave's Attic. We're trying to build the number of subscribers on this channel. We don't have sponsors. We don't yak. We don't sell shaving bits for our naughty stuff. We just ask you to like and subscribe, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, shame on the darkness, because that question came on Dave's garage, so he needs to.
There you go.
He ain't even going to hear the answer. So someone knows
maybe
the
he's
darkness.
watching. We don't know. We
He
don't know.
should be. Well, he should be subscribing.
That's true.
Yeah, and liking, and getting his family members to also do the same.
Exactly.
Snazzlecat. There's a little, this is just I think a tip for folks or something. There's a little gear icon in the lower left corner of Task Manager for settings. And that's where you can set the default start page or tab for Task Manager. Also, if you want it to run at boot, there's still the startup folder in the Windows 11 start menu. It's funny because I went and I thought, is it there? And yep, right, little gear, you click it and you can tell it which tab you want to start on. That was pretty good information to share.
Yeah. I did not
Even
know that
you
one.
didn't know that, hey?
I did not.
There you go. YS Production. Is there a special way to open Task Manager without elevation when the logged in user has elevation? So I was asking several chatbots and none of their suggestions worked that run as a different user. But can you lower your...
Yeah, if you open a command window and that command window is not elevated and you make sure Task Manager of the process is not already running and exit it if it is, and then type task mgr at the command prompt, that should start a non-elevated Task Manager for you. Now, for all I know, these days it just goes and asks when log on to go and start an elevated one for you. I don't know for certain, but I would think if you run it right from a non-elevated command prompt that you'll get a non-elevated Task Manager.
Brock Caldwell. Does the control shift and click run new task lead to a privilege escalation scenario? Says he tried it on his work PC where he shouldn't have local admin access and he was able to open an administrator command prompt and run commands.
I would hope not. It's not magic, so it shouldn't be able to do anything fancy. Now, if you have administrative rights, it will take advantage of them. But if you don't have administrative rights, there's no way it should be able to start an administrative command prompt for you. But if I'm mistaken, let somebody know.
Okay. The Turbo Button Show. We were talking about some of the math in Task Manager and how the numbers don't always add up. So he was saying you mentioned a bug in the, he says you mentioned a bug in the NT kernel, reporting over 100% CPU use. So he's got a 9th generation Intel i5 gaming PC that when stress testing will range between 99 to 117% on the CPU and Task Manager. Says, is it possible that could be something like what you and the team experienced when developing the Task Manager back then?
No, I think that is now a function of clock rate and going, the clock rate changing, going up and down on the CPU. And so if the clock rate goes up during the window, it can get more work done than the initial CPU is scheduled to do because it's sped up in the meantime and stuff like that. Wow. But we didn't have that issue when I was working on Task Manager because CPUs just ran at their clock rate. They didn't slow down and speed up. So I don't want to say it's above my pay grade, but I certainly don't know enough about it to comment on it really intelligently. But I think that's what's going on.
So it's anticipating it's going to operate at this clock rate and then it's able to do more and it overachieves?
Yeah, I think so.
Or just exceeds the estimate, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'll mess with the math. Swagigi. You are very articulate in these. Is that the result of a good script or years of practice speaking?
Years of practice making YouTube videos helps, and a good script helps as well.
Yeah. How many videos have you done on Dave's Garage now?
I think it's like 500.
Okay.
No, it can't be that many. That'd be 10.
I was going to say like 350.
Maybe that's more like it.
Based on maybe I've checked it twice and think I might remember. I'll double check later to see how close I am. Yeah, again, we were talking last week that you were going to be away and you weren't sure if we're going to be back. So we'll do one. It says, will there be a Black Friday podcast? And although today is not Black Friday, this will come out on Black Friday.
So yes, there will be.
There will be. And this is it. And you're watching it. So So buy it now because it's never going to be cheaper.
Add to cart.
Add to cart. HJK. Here, this is about ejecting the USB drives. I think someone had asked a question why it doesn't show you the contents. It says, regarding that, there's a connection to Task Manager, at least on his laptop. Drives will never eject when Task Manager is running on Windows 11. Any idea why?
No, shouldn't be a case. Sounds like a pretty bad bug to me.
Okay.
So maybe report that one because that is weird.
Yeah. Crusher 9 mil. The elevator close button. So we got another thing. Most elevator close door buttons only work when the elevator is in manual service mode or in fire service mode. He said it's in fire service mode. The door open and close buttons have to be held until the door is fully open or closed respectively. So that makes a lot more sense too. So they do work, just not for the public.
Well, I still maintain that on some elevators, they do have a function, even outside of fire mode, because I've seen it where it opens really quick. And I hit the button I meant to go to the, and I hit it close, it closes right away again. So, but other ones I've seen it where, you just keep it and nothing happens. So.
Linear burn. I'd be interested in the program to flush virtual memory. Is that something we can download? I think you had talked about that.
Yeah, it's not a useful feature anymore.
Right.
It used to be the case that you could, so the reason I wrote it is I had a machine that was running Exchange at all times, and Exchange had the habit of just using all the memory that it could get, at least on a machine that had the kind of memory I could afford. And so if you try to use the machine, it was glacial, and you couldn't even barely get a password prompt to come up because it was paging so hard. And so what I did is I wrote an app that every time memory got low, it would go through and force page out a whole bunch of old stuff out of the virtual memory, hoping that you probably don't need that, and keep whatever it was. You can set a level like I want 8 megs or 16 megs or 32 megabytes free at all times. And so anytime the memory would dip below, it would go and reclaim that memory. But now the systems, A, have a lot more memory than they used to. B, you're not in a paging situation very often. And C, the system handles it pretty elegantly when you are. So it's not something you'd want to be doing anymore.
And that's like 1997, 98 kind of?
Era,
yeah.
It was a dangerous field to be in because there was like RAM doublers and all, soft RAM and all kinds of stuff. And so people see it and they go, oh, RAM doubler. And no, it had nothing to do with any of that.
Right. So. Yeah, I actually bought that one because it was helpful.
And I wrote it for a reason. And
that would have been 2002, I think, when I got my first Dell laptop. And yeah, it was so nice. You hit that button, it would just refresh. No, it's like a brand new machine again because they would slog. It didn't take much.
That was the slogan, get that just booted feeling. Yep. Now, that was at the cost of the other programs running much slower, but your interactive process was much faster.
I was really only concerned with the one that I was on that was slow.
Right.
It was frustrating me. And you could hit whatever the button up in the top or if there's a hotkey for it. And then, I was like, oh, freshened up again.
I think it's like Control-Alt// or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I probably was not the shortcut guy then. I was going up to the icon in the top right or something. And clear mem or whatever it said. But it was certainly served me well. Solid State Soul. Dave, I'd like to know your opinion on MSCONFIG. Were you at all involved with its creation in the past or present? Have you used MSCONFIG much?
No, is that the one that has like the startup panel and then it's got the other various settings? So obviously I don't know a lot about it. Other than I used to set my startup folder and stuff. No, I can't say I know a lot about it.
Says he finds it useful for older versions of Windows and it still works on Windows 11. I
think I know what he's talking about, and I haven't used it in a long time, but I used to until they added the startup tab to Task Manager and stuff. Then because that's where it used to be.
And sysinternals, the one you talked about, you don't use that a heck of a lot either, do you?
Only if I have a need. If something's broken and I'm trying to fix it, I'll get the tool I need. But it's not something I keep and use on my machine at all times.
Okay. Killer Pixel 2003, 2K3. There's some old games that GOG hasn't gotten around to fixing yet that can't handle running on multiple cores. Task Manager can set process affinity when the program is running. But is there a way to set process affinity to core 0 before starting the game?
No, you'd have to write a utility to do that. Okay. That kind of comes back to that topic we talked about last week of automatically assigning priority to processes that start up and saying, oh, I want calc to be high priority for some reason. You could also say, and I only want calc to run on core number 7. Yeah. But you'd have to write a utility to do that. I'm not aware of one. I feel like there's got to be 10 of them, but I have never seen one.
Yeah. Hubster 6381. I remember using Visual Source Safe in the early thousands, which is part of the Microsoft Visual Development Tool Suite, but that wasn't in the list of source management tools that you mentioned using pre-GitHub. Was it used by any of the internal Microsoft development team?
Oh, I don't know if anybody used it. We did not. I used it at home for a bit. I know I lost code on it a couple times. I'm not saying it was not a good product. That was my experience. So I'm kind of scarred by it. No, so we didn't use it internally in my team or in my groups.
Okay. He goes on to say, or was it something that was pushed onto the rest of the world but shunned internally?
It was something they bought, I believe, because they needed a consumer-grade source management system. Slime wasn't really ready. They sold Slime as Microsoft Delta, and if you have a box for Microsoft Delta, like a package, I really want a package of Microsoft Delta. So please reach out if you've got one. But the other one was bought to be part of the Visual Studio package, I presume.
Okay. And then Hubster's got another question. He says, second question, if I may. Is there a way to get a signed copy of your books?
Sure. Send me your book with a self-addressed stuffed envelope, and I'll sign it and send it back to you.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, I guess you have to reach out by email or something to find out where to send it. But
yeah, that'll be in the about stuff of this page or Dave's Garage.
Yeah.
I do not know how to pronounce this. Saret, that's Nessie. I assume much of your career was dealing with x86 architecture, but what do you think about ARM or RiscV?
Yeah, ironically, my internship in DOS was all x86, but then my first couple of years in NT were actually on the MIPS RISC platform, so I'm pretty used to the RISC stuff. And we had to debug the Alpha and the PowerPC as well, so you had to be somewhat not super proficient with, but you had to be able to walk your way through a call stack and debug code on all of those chips. So spent a fair bit of time on the RISC platforms back then. I'm not up to speed on ARM, though.
And were you one of the first guys to have a MIPS machine, or?
There were a few guys on the team. Okay. I mean, the kernel guys would have had them way before we had them, but by the time they got the system all up and running on MIPS, then we started getting the shell working on MIPS and so on.
Oh, okay. Brett Hagee says, Dave, has anyone figured out how to run an MS-DOS in a browser window yet? He said, that'd be so handy to resurrect old code.
I'm pretty sure you can. Go to pcjs.org. He's got emulators for all. It's Jeff Parsons, super genius guy. He's got emulators for everything from PDP-11 to Windows to Mac, and I think he's got Mac. And I know he's certainly got MS-DOS, so you can run DOS in a browser window, that kind of thing.
So which version? Any version you can get? Or
pretty much. I think he's got a general emulator, and then you pick from a drop-down which of the 15 versions of MS-DOS you want. And
so which one would you be running?
6.22. That's the best one.
The Northerner up north. Dave, how do you feel about your good self appearing in mainstream media articles such as the Online IT Journal, the Register?
I'm ambivalent in the literal sense of the word, meaning I'm of two minds about it, because on the one hand, it's cheap and easy content for other companies to just summarize my video or my social media and make a news story out of it. But on the other hand, when they do it thoughtfully, I appreciate it. I like hearing the commentary on it and sometimes seeing angles that I didn't see when I wrote the thing. So it works both ways.
Yeah, he says your famous spreading, as he saw here in the UK, your good self appear in non-IT related media post. It says probably a cut and paste job, but your presence seems to be spreading far and wide. Did you ever expect this, and do you have any control over it, or?
No, other than I make videos, and sometimes those appeal to a wider audience. And I suppose that, if I was only doing PDP-11 videos, then it probably wouldn't spread very far. But when I delve into things like Windows sucks, here's why, or Windows doesn't suck, here's why, then you get a little more broader exposure, I think.
Do you ever get contacted directly from folks that are using some of that video?
Yeah, I know Richard Speed over at the Register pretty well now. Okay. I've sent him stuff. He sent me stuff, and a couple guys like that.
And sometimes they just take it and use it, and it appears.
Yep.
Okay. James Prokop says, I still have my cassette of Microsoft Editor Assembler Plus from 1980, along with my favorite game, Galactic Trader, from Broderbund Software. Ooh, Broderbund. Wow, there's a. Did you have a favorite early software game from pre-floppy?
Yeah, a couple. I really liked Microsoft. I think it was a Microsoft game now that I'm going to say it out loud. Decathlon for the TRS-80 Model 1,
Wow.
level 2 machine. So when you get the 4 and 8K and 16K machines, it was a text-based, well, with their weird graphics in the TRS-80 sports game, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason, I think Microsoft might have released that, but I got to check. Let me know in the comments if you know what game I'm talking about and who actually released it.
So it was actually a graphic. So you're like jumping over hurdles and a little dude's running along the screen? Wow.
Yeah, it was not really graphic, but sort of.
Well, as good as you could with ASCII characters. Is that kind of typical late 70s? Timothy Treneff. Dave, I watched a full 4-hour video with Dave Cutler. Excellent work, Timothy. Awesome. How many times did you put right in the script?
Is that did I say a lot? Right.
It must be. But when, I mean, that Cutler interview is how long ago now? Like, is that like 4 years or something?
No, not that long. 2 years, maybe.
That's it? Only 2 years?
Yeah, I think so.
Michael Pelly, another great episode. I can remember running the Windows 95 closed beta shell on NT 3.51 workstation. Worked flawlessly as I waited to send in a bug report. Then his question here is, when are you getting your 9-track 3600 BPI tape drive?
I already have it. I just can't make it work. So when I power it up right now, it blinks the error code. And if I look it up, it says tachometer error, which sounds to me like the motor isn't spinning the main armature at the right speed. And that's all I know so far. So, I tried to make sure the belt was working and things weren't wobbly, but I haven't dug into it much further. So,
and what's the approach with that? Or is that something you're going to try and resolve?
I might. It's kind of an interesting problem, I think. So,
okay. Does it require you're going to have to pull it apart? I guess so, eh?
It's one of those big units. I think you might have seen it. I had it up on the bench at one time. And, you open the hood and the whole thing lifts up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's a monster unit. But
yeah. Just
it's a front-loading tape. So you don't go, like on the old ones, you had the two big spinning wheels. Yeah. On this one, it's like a front loader, like a 1990s or 80s VCR.
So it's not top loading. You don't lift it, set it in, and plop it down. It actually loads in the front like a VCR. Yeah. And then drops down into its position.
I think so. Yeah. You go in and it pops up an armature to spin. And
it's what, 14 inch?
19.
19 inch
wide. Yeah.
Holy cow.
The unit itself, the tape is 9-track, but.
Okay. Yeah. Tim Robertson, I was wondering what your favorite car is. If you could own any car and you're not allowed to sell it to buy other cars. You were talking about that with me a couple of days ago. You said you sort of had 2 cars.
Well, there's a couple old cars I'd like to get. But in terms of current cars, if I could buy any car, I would stick with the car I have, which is the Mercedes S63 Biturbo Coupe. They don't make the Coupe anymore. They haven't made it since 2022 or something like that. And so I've still got mine. And I'm hoping they make something that looks as cool as the S63, drives, acts as well, but is like a Tesla. And I know they've got the new, it's like the 800 horsepower S63 4-door, but they don't make a coupe. Yeah. And I like the interior on mine. Is a really nice interior on that generation of coupe. So in terms of older cars, 3 things I'd like to get probably. I'd like to get a BMW Z8, silver with red interior, low miles, because I was going to buy one when it was new, but I couldn't quite afford it, and I had kids, so I thought, well, I'll get the M3, and I still have M3. But.
Would you settle for a Z8, like the Canadian version, or?
Oh, yes, if it was Canadian, then it'd be even better. That's why the emissions commitment is on backwards.
Yeah, that's the Z8 Laurentian?
Oui.
Yeah. And the second one of the 3?
Would be the Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4 Spider. So the 1994-ish with the wing. I think the wing was still on the Spider. I can't remember if the Spiders had wings, but there's a convertible hardtop Mitsubishi. And they're probably a nightmare to maintain because they're super complex cars. But if you get a nice low mileage one that's been well taken care of, I think it'd be a cool car to have. And I'd like to have a 67 or 68 Cadillac Eldorado.
Oh.
and I want a low mileage one or a fully restored. I would prefer either super low miles, unicorn. That's probably like the third time I've said unicorn today. Or no, I wrote it in a script. That's why.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
And
right. So, I thought it was Dave Cutler.
Right.
Sorry.
What the hell was I talking about now?
I didn't mean to throw you off. I couldn't stop myself from.
No, that's fine.
I thought it was funny, so I went with it. The cars. So the Cadillac. Yeah. So you want to find a low, like unicorn low mileage one.
Yeah, or a fully restored. Somebody's had it on a rotisserie and the frame is powder coated and every detail like my 2+2s. I don't want a 40,000 mile car. It's just really well, if it was like my dad's Lincoln, it had barely any miles when he passed away. So that kind of thing. But
how low a mileage is too low? Because, there was that, Lincoln Continental Mark 4 or 5?
Yeah, Mark.
That was
Mark 4. Yeah,
Mark 4 on Bring a Trailer, and it had
1979, and it had 97 original miles. The car was brand new, bought by a guy in Wisconsin, stored away for however many years, and then he died, and his brother was tasked with selling off all these cars, so he's selling on Bring a Trailer, and this one had 97 miles, and I thought, if I could pick it up for like $30K. I budgeted, it was probably $10K if you went through the whole car, did every rubber thing, all the seals, all the hoses, all the belts, and really went through the car sympathetically and proactively, spent another $10K on it. And the car sold for $140,000. So I was nowhere near buying that car. But
in some ways, because I think you were talking about this too, after the fact or during when the price started to get to that point, it'd be sort of like, again, you're looking for a car that you can drive.
Yeah, and if you buy a car with 97 miles. Not that you're going to rack
miles on it, commuting to work or anything, but you'd like to put a few thousand miles on it over a couple of years. And a car with 97 original miles to run it up to 2,097 sort of seems like a bit of not a shame, but
it really destroys the value, especially that car obviously had $100,000 in its mileage. And so you drive that car 5,000 miles and now it's a $40,000 car, not a $140,000 car. Yeah. So I'm glad. I presume it went to a museum and not a crazy person who's going to put $10,000 of hoses and drive the thing. But
from the comments I saw, I think it was heading off to Poland.
Oh, okay. I know they love big cars over in Europe, but the bigger the better.
So, and I don't think it was the first time the guy bought a North American or an American sort of United States land yacht to bring over to Poland. So, if it had 5,097 miles, then you could put a couple thousand on it. And that's not so bad. But one last question here, Dave. Maybe more of it's a question and a comment. And again, we don't do much advertising stuff. I think last time we sort of joked about it, and you've mentioned it once here. So Solid Steel says, so no updates on the situation of hair or erections? He says, I don't know why I keep coming back.
Well, eventually we'll make our own coffee blend. Won't it be great?
That's right. But until then, this is Shop Talk on your second channel, Dave's Attic, and we're pretty reliant on the subs and likes. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and be sure you watch stuff on Dave's Garage too.
All right.
And what else can we tell him, Dave?
That'll do. All right. Well, thanks for joining us out here in the shop today. We'll see you next time right here in Shop Talk. This little chair will be waiting for one of you, and a rocking chair for another who likes to rock, and a big armchair for two to curl up in. All next time, right here on Shop Talk.
I'm doing well, Dave.
Sorry.
Doing really well. No, it's okay. I can get that all out. Oh, no, because you're beside me. So, it needs to look like you're, yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.